right. Welcome back, everyone. It is episode 4 of Jack Music Reviews. Happy New Music Friday. I hope you found some good music to listen to this week. I hope we can have some good conversation about music this week. And without further ado, let's get right into it. This is probably going to be a longer episode because there were some longer albums. Last week, if you don't remember, we reviewed The Story So Far, Strays. We reviewed My Tribe and Mood Swings. And this week on the menu, our first album that we're going to be talking about. Hope you're all having a wonderful week. Just, sit back and enjoy some of these snowboarding clips. So our first album this week is called Rush by Maneskin. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. They're Italian artists. So this first song starts out with some rock, the drums on 2 and 4. This guy is talking about how he sees this girl across the way and he knows he loves her and he thinks that she's the answer to all of his problems. He says, "I'll make your body a habit." He asks her if she wants to own his mind. So he's really kind of down bad for this girl, you know what I mean? This next track has a Tom Morello feature, so you already know there's going to be a crazy guitar solo. Right there, and this is pretty much the same rock sound as last time. It's got, to me, it struck me as a little bit of a Panic at the Disco type of sound. In the song it talks about how this place is a circus. I'm not sure if he's talking about the industry, just the place he's in right now or whatever, and the song is called Gossip, and it just talks about the gossip that goes on about all these people. So this next song is slower. It's a little melodramatic. It talks about how he misses someone and they're so far away. The song is called Time Zone, and he says in it, the only thing that keeps us apart is a different time zone. He doesn't care what he has to give up to see her. He just misses her so much that he needs to be with her and come home. This next song keeps the drums on the beat. It's got a weird lyrics and vocal recording. He says, "You broke my heart, so I crashed your car." And the song's kind of cheeks, honestly, but I think that they meant it to be. It's just a little weird, but I think that, it was kept within control and it was meant to be like that, I don't know. This next track keeps the rock theme going from the first couple of songs, and this one kind of talks more about how he talks too much, and then it kind of switches to the girl's perspective, and she just wants to kiss him, and she says, "If you're going to talk so much, why don't you talk between my legs?" This next song is called Gasoline. It's got a much darker sound. He seems to talk about gas and oil owners kind of holding it over our heads because it's kind of a way that we survive. He asks in the song, "How are you sleeping at night?" And then he says, "We're not just going to take this, we're going to be dancing while you treat us horribly," and shit like that. It's kind of a cool message if I'm reading into it the right way. I'm not sure, but either way. This next song goes back to the sound in the beginning. It's a little more upbeat, more rocky sounding. He talks about all he's doing is drugs, they're lighting up, whatever. He wants this girl to feel. He thinks that this girl hasn't really felt anything like some type of adventure, whether it's drugs, adventure, or whatever. But he's talking about how he's going to introduce her to something and how they're going to act like rebels. He says, "Don't tell your mother. She doesn't want to know." This next track. This next track has a little bit more of a melodic guitar sound in the back, and it talks about how he gets lonely when it's time to go to sleep, and he can't really sleep at all. He says, "I'm making love with danger. I'll dance until I die. You know, he also talks about needing an escape from whatever's tormenting him. The next track. He says in this song, cool kids don't use floss. And that's just bars, you know what I mean? He picks up the pace here a little with this track and gets his vocal a little more in your face. It's a bit louder, and he kind of talks about all the cool things that he thinks cool kids do, but he doesn't care about being a cool kid, so he doesn't think that what they're doing is cool. I'm not really sure. I also wouldn't know anything about what it's like to be a cool kid, so I'm not really too sure. The 10th song. It starts out slower, you know, a little bit more of like a love lullaby rock type of thing going on there. He says in it, there would be no summer, there would be no spring if not for this love of mine. It's titled If Not For You. It's a really sweet track, and it talks about all the ways that this person is helping him do the things he does and go throughout his daily life and how much he appreciates them. The next song is kind of back to the start, Panic at the Disco type of sound I was getting from it. He said, I read your diary to get inside of you. So it seems like he's like missing this person or something like that. He no longer has them in his life, but imagining it is so hard and it's painful. And in this song, he does a really good job of emphasizing some of the darker turns in the lyrics with some minor chords to make it feel a little sadder. I liked it. The next 3 songs are all in Italian. I didn't really care to Google what the lyrics meant in English. But the sounds are good, and like he's kind of spitting in the next songs, you know. So yeah, we skipped a couple tracks there, but as you can see, the 14th track kind of sounds slower, and again, it's all in Italian, and I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about in it, but I do know what love sounds like when I hear it, so it kind of sounds like some type of love song with a little bit of sadness going on, but that's just me basing it off the sound. I have no idea really what he was saying in it. As we get back into the English tracks here, there's only 3 left on the album. This brings out the same sound that the first parts of the album brought, but I feel like this song is a bit more danceable. He talks about how he's feeling wild. You know, he's been arrested, he's done drugs, and just is like crazy. He's talking about himself as if he's so crazy, and you know, he's having fun with it too, and it's making him a little cocky, and so he's kind of talking about what's going through his head in that regard too. I felt like this 16th track had like earlier, like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 years ago, 21 Pilots vibes. When she's upset, she told me she's a maybe a little more recent than that, I'm not even sure, but he talks about this girl he knows that everyone falls in love with her, like she's a heartbreaker and all this stuff, and he's telling him, oh, too bad, you know, she's a supermodel, she's into music, she's into cigarettes, like she doesn't really want you. It seems like he's had this experience along with so many other people, and he's just kind of watching her from afar, appreciating her a little bit. This last song is slow and sad, you know. He doesn't feel like he wants to spend any more time on this earth if this person isn't there. You know, he says, tonight is going to be the loneliest, and you're still the oxygen I breathe. So some sweet touching lyrics like that makes you know that he really does care for this person. So yeah, that's what that's about. In terms of this album, I feel like in the past I've gotten some pretty underdeveloped albums, and I feel like this album was really well produced and, you know, thought through. I think that this guy knows how to use the sound, the rock sound, and the way he sings over the tracks. I think he does a good job of projecting just the right of emotion while keeping all the lyrics in control about it too. I've heard of Maneskin, I'm not really sure where though, and it's not necessarily my type of music, but the slower songs kind of got to me. You know, you can tell there's a lot of thought going into the songs, and like I said, a higher production quality. I think his lyrics and flow are honestly pretty good too, and the last track though is probably my favorite because it was just the more sweeter rating, you know, and I'm gonna decide just because, I don't know, it's not my type of music, but I can see this music being really good to someone. I'm going to give it an A rating here. So we're going to put this album in with the A's for now. I don't know. I'm gonna knock it down to a B. It's because I mean, when I look at all these other albums I'm putting it against, it's just not as good as them. So that's just a fact. Yeah. So the next album we're gonna review is called Mockingbird and the Crow by Hardy. It's 17 songs. It's an hour and 1 minute long. And I was sad to find out that it's a country album. So let's get through this together. No, like right off the bat, I'll let you know I'm not a fan of country. I don't like it. I don't like where it comes from and all this stuff. It starts off with this country rock, my favorite type of sound. This is literally a song from Beer talking about how much he loves all the good times he's had with these people. It says, picking me up, setting me down. You know, it sounds like there's a lot of money and production behind these tracks, and it's like radio quality country for sure. The next song features Morgan Wallen. It's kind of got that slower country grind. I mean, I can't even play a lot of these songs because, first of all, my video would get copyrighted, and secondly, like, you don't want to hear this country either. So, you know, he talks about in this making his neck red with hard work. He's bending over in the sun. You know how those rednecks are. He talks about standing up for people who love the tattered flag. It was really hard to maintain my composure and not just lose myself in the cringe for this song. Now, this song has more of a folk slant in the sound, but in terms of what he's talking about, this guy is like so excited to go and beat the shit out of someone and shoot someone who was being mean to this woman, which, you know, we all get our emotions ahead of us or whatever, but it's just so weird that how excited this guy is to go do a violence. You know what I mean? He's like going to beat him up, driving to his house, and then the woman's perspective of this song, it's a Lainey Wilson feature. She's praising him, she's thanking him and all this stuff, and you know, it's all good, but it's just like this weird vigilante fantasy that all these like hicks have. Like, so just a weird vibe to me. This next song, brace yourself. Oh dear God, dude. I mean, it's kind of like this one's a sadder song, because it kind of talks about, I think this guy's dead, and because he's saying there's ain't no beer in heaven, so when you drink one for me. Talks about how he misses fishing and hunting. He wants this girl who he loves to think about him, and of course, drink one for me. The next song, if you ain't singing with no words, this next one, I mean, dude, you know they're in the studio, like, and this is gonna play on the radio all the time. He says in this song, as he takes it slower, riding around the lyrics in the track a little bit, like he's just trotting along on his horse, he says, what's the point of 40 acres if you got it all to yourself? Ain't no I in country, but there is a you. And this is my gripe with country a little bit, is that he's basically complaining about the colonialism of the American empire. He's talking about, what's the point of 40 acres? It's like, bro, you're literally complaining about it, like, give it up to someone, you know what I mean? Like, he loves America, but America set him up with the 40 acres to be all alone and work for and continue all of that production for the purpose of growth. Like, it's just, they're so weird and cringe. And obviously he has to talk about church and the God and all this stuff and annoying stuff. I mean, this next song, again, a lot of these country songs kind of sound like that song that you'd be hearing on the radio. It's like a Sunset Drive, and you wouldn't realize that you actually let the whole song play type of shit. You're like, that wasn't that bad. That's what kind of all of these songs sound like. But, you know, in this one, he talks about our connectivities on our screens. You know, we had this same type of take in this Margot Price album, Strays, where she talks about how the good-for-nothing cell phone screen, it's messing with his brain, and he just wants to go back to the way things used to be. He thinks the world is messed up now because he saw someone point a gun at someone with a Bible. Can you believe that? People hating people holding the Bible? Oh my God. This next song sounds like the same same country songs you always have. He personifies the emotion of happiness a lot in the song and talks about how it's simple, it's easygoing, and how it doesn't need much to exist. And also how if you mistreat it or forget about it or you don't nurture it, that it will leave you. He's saying, why can't everyone be happy? But then in previous songs is praising the red, white, and blue and standing up for the tattered flag. So again, there's a lot of the answer is literally right in front of his face. Like, he loves America so much and then is asking what all the suffering is about. Next song, the 8th track. Like, this is the new, like, country angle that everyone takes. They're saying, like, oh, you know, country music isn't a thing anymore. Like, the real country doesn't exist. Like, basically saying, like, country got canceled. They're literally saying shit like that. He says, you can't be proud of where you're from on the radio. Like, what kind of take is that? You hate to see 3 chords in the truth buried in the dirt. Like, what, dude? Like, literally talking about guitar and Bible. Like, keep saying some stupid shit. And then he says, country had a couple close calls with names I won't mention. And, you know, I can't help but wonder who he's talking about. Like, I was like, is he slandering Lil Nas X for making that country hip hop? And you would think that, but then this is what happens next. The song gets pretty sweet. But you can see it starts to get fucking louder later in the song. So this album is called The Mockingbird and the Crow. The first half kind of gives you more of a Mockingbird vibe. You know, it's up, it's nice, it's sweet to listen to if you're into all this country stuff. And, you know, then this song has a nice harmony and it slowly gets darker and darker and darker. He talks in this song about how he's always been a pretty regular guy. He always sees himself as just a casual country enjoyer, but now all of a sudden he has a microphone, so now things are going to be different. He has a stage. He's going to make it different in this country album. And so then the 10th song takes the turn that I just didn't want it to take. In the last track, the 8th track, he talks about how country isn't a thing anymore. And then the next track, he's making emo, screamo country music. Listen to this. Have you heard anything like this before? It's like country screamo music. It's insane. I've never heard anything this whack. The next song is called Jack, another song about alcohol, Jack Daniels. So again, this goes back to the country sound with a little bit more of rock in it. It sounds a lot like the other songs, and it's, again, from the perspective of alcohol. It's a bottle of Jack swearing how it can fix the problems of the listener and how you got to keep coming back, you got to keep coming back. So it sounds like this guy's kind of struggling with it. And in the end, there's just more screaming, you know? This next song, he even throws a little bit of hip-hop in it. I woke up on a bed this morning, passed out like I was dead, still got one heck of a buzz. If I look like a train wreck, it's because I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning. Like, it's got like literally like is that like a backup horn sample? Like, do you hear that? Like, literally, what is that? It's just so weird. He talks about how, you know, he was an asshole to this girl and he got drunk and then she kicked him out and he just slept in the bed of his truck and now he's got work at 9 a.m. and he's complaining about that. I don't even know. This next song is called 3006. Talks about how this girl used to be living in the woods with him. You know, he probably didn't have a shower for her or nothing like this and she was tired of it. So she left. But he's like, good riddance. You know, good riddance, because you didn't care about hunting deer like I did, you know, and I'm just going to go shoot deer. What's the difference? What's one more 3006 to a redneck? Like, what does that even mean, you know? He sounds pretty mad about this girl leaving him, but he's covering it with a bit of pride. This next song is called I Ain't in the Country No More. It's talking about him being in this city. I think it's because he's maybe listening or performing, you know, songs and concerts, so he's more in the cities and more in populated areas. You know, he's talking about how he's never seen this much concrete before. I just don't know what this guy's journey is, but he could just be talking about a little bit of that. Now this next song features Jeremy McKinnon. It's called Radio Song, and again, it's the same. It's this weird screamo emo country music. Talks about how country's dead, right? But then it's a song talking about how easy it is to make a country song that would go on the radio, and it's literally called Radio Song. So it doesn't make sense. I literally could not stand the song. I wanted to rip my ears off while I was listening to it. This next song is literally called Kill Shit Until I Die. Keeps the emo hip hop rock song going. Like, this guy is vomiting genres right now. He's talking about how when he was young he got a gun from his dad to protect himself because his dad was telling him the world's inevitably going to go to shit. And this guy holds on to that as such a part of his identity throughout some of these songs. You know, he's always anxious about this prepping for the end of the world type of shit. It's so weird, you know, like, I swear these hicks want everything to go bad so they can just get, you know, legal kills on people. Like, it's so weird. This last song, the 17th song in this album, to make it an hour long, is called the Redneck Song. This is the most country twang sound song you could think of, you know. This talks about how this guy's a proud redneck. You know, this song, he's a proud redneck. He's flexing his redneck. It slowly builds into more louder country rock music, keeps that sound going. He says, "My truck nuts stay covered in mud." And that lyric just made me think about how this country lifestyle aesthetic is kind of just like a consumable thing now. Like, it's not even a real authentic lifestyle. Like, it's kind of just a thing you can virtue signal with your, like, car you buy or like whatever, and you know, it's all fine. It's just like weird then that he's complaining about all the things he's complaining about while still enforcing all of the country like stereotypes that contribute to the cycle of that. Like, it's just, I can't even wrap my head around it. But at the end of the day, here's my thoughts on this album. You know, this dude loves alcohol, and he equates it and relates it to so many parts of his life. He's clearly had a problem with it. It talks about him keep coming back, whatever. It's some of the lyrics are pretty stupid and narrow-minded, you know, and it's just music, so it doesn't really matter. But this whole album, he kind of throws jabs at late-stage capitalism, about being lonely on his 40 acres, about needing alcohol to make everything better, and all this stuff is literally created by the American empire, you know what I mean? And the whole time he's praising the red, white, and blue of the American empire. It just doesn't make sense. I just think that some of these country artists need to like read a book other than the Bible, and then they can use this talent that they have for music for something better, you know what I mean? He talks about country music being dead, but then he made a screamo country song. It literally makes no sense. It's got definitely a high production value, and I have a lot of respect on him for trying to blend the genres like this. But honestly, listening to this album was a drag. It sucked. It honestly ruined the rest of my day. Just I'm not even gonna lie. It made the next like 5 hours I had at work just like not good. So I'm gonna end up giving this album like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna give this album a C, because like I can understand people listening to this. Like, this dude just made an album to make money, it feels like. But like, dog, it's bad. Our third and final new album of the week is Musik by Trippie Redd. Let's dive right into this one. This album is 25 songs long and an hour and 15 minutes. This song starts off with like a Halloween type of intro. It's got this Cardi vibe by bringing all these loud noises just used as instruments with these hip hop lyrics, you know, that don't have too much sustenance or whatever like that. You know, he talks about his girl, his drugs, his guns, his cars, his money. In this song, he says pour a four, skadoosh, Kung Fu Panda. I like that type of lyrics, you know what I mean? Kung Fu Panda. This next song has the spooky, scary skeleton vibe continuing. Chief Keef hopping on this track to give his takes about the fast life of money and hip-hop and women. He says, "My right wrist cost a Tesla," and I think that's pretty nice. This song has a Future feature in it. It's got again that very loud Uzi sound. He says in the song, "Going dumb, going crazy." You know, that's kind of what they're doing on the track too. They're just making everything go crazy. You know, Future in this song, he said the R slur, which makes me think about that one song by Kendrick called Auntie Diaries. Just an interesting conversation to be had about slurs, and there's no right answers, but it's just interesting. And the beat goes pretty hard, though. I can't even lie to you. Next track. The next song features Future and Lil Baby. It talks about loud cars, sexy women, big guns, killing people, lots of drugs, and I just respect how throughout all of it there's a little bit of this Halloween aftertaste in the track. This song is a Juice WRLD feature. It's always nice to hear some new Juice WRLD. Juice, you're always going to hear some stuff about drugs and depression in Juice songs. Turns up the electricity on this track in terms of the sounds. In the song, Juice gives us some more takes about popping pills. And what I like about this Juice WRLD song is in it he says 999 start a riot in here. I really like when artists kind of have tags like that they can kind of just throw in, 999 is Juice's tag, and I just like how that kind of found its way into this song. The next song is called Van Helsing. Trippie's going at it alone in this track. It's the same type of hype hop lyrics about cars, women, drugs, sex, all the good stuff. And he just keeps the same sound going. The Halloween Cardi sound, This next track features Lil Baby. It's got the same sound, but almost like a Mario Kart item loading sound in the back. Listen to this. You hear that in the back, like the whatever. It says it's a certified hood classic in the introduction of the song, and talks about, again, how they're all about the money and how they'll beef with any squad if they need to. The next track reminds you that this is a kind of scarier Halloween type movie mansion music, I should say. So yeah, he says in this song, swear to God you ain't want no smoke with me. It talks about jewelry, money, and his girls, talks about his performing and making it out the mud. This next song features Travis Scott. It starts out with some laughing. It's called Crazy Train. It's much like the Ozzy Osbourne Crazy Train in the fact that it starts out with laughing, some loud guitar sounds. Again, Travis Scott features, always kind of interesting to hear. I like hearing new Travis Scott. And just kind of gets into this bass that's going to destroy your headphones. I mean, you can literally hear your headphones melting from it. And it talks about just how they're going to have fun taking drugs and going out together. The next song is a Lil Durk feature. Talks about shooting guns in the rain. Talks about having sex with women and feeling invincible. Keeps the same sound going. The next track, we got a Nardo Wick feature on this one. It kind of sounds like some of the really darker Kanye music. Nardo Wick's worked with Kanye before, so it's kind of, you know what I mean? He says in this song, I'm the chosen one like Goku, she's watching me like Roku. And I just think that's a pretty funny bar. The next song is called Killionaire. It's a good play on words. This song talks about making it and driving fast cars, throws in a little bit about women and drugs, the usual stuff. He says, I could be anything like Kirby, and I respect lyrics like that. The next track features Big 30, talks about all the same things. Sounds like all the same things, but this has a little bit more of a Future taste to the beat. This album, honestly, at this point, just really started to drag for me. Everything sounded the same. None of the lyrics were good, so... We got lucky on the feature in this one. More Cardi slant to this Halloween rock noise. Talks about clothes and women's in the city. In the song, Lucky says, made me a mill, couple thoughts off lean. Talking about how they're just probably talking about how maybe they're just sipping lean and making some rap music, and this is what comes of it, and now they're making mad money off it. Who knows? That could be pretty cool and fun to do with your friends, though, but don't do that. This next song, Who Else, features Rich the Kid. It kind of sounds like a spooky ambulance going on in the background. It's got the same type of drums and bass as the rest of this album, and this one kind of talks about doing things for your friends and your mom and people you love and staying loyal to all of them. This beat starts crazy cool. I really like this beat a lot. It features Summers. In it, he says there's no time zone in the spaceships, and it just talks about the struggles he had, where he's at in life, and of course some women. Are you laughing at me? This next song features Fiji Macintosh. Literally same sound, all the same stuff. Talks about grinding for money, violence. This album was really dragging still at this point. This next track features Rilo Rodriguez, and at this point in the album I was listening to it, I couldn't even care to listen for the lyrics. They're still talking about women, drugs, cars, everything. It's just all the same type of like hyper masculine flexing stuff that just isn't like, there's not a lot of sustenance, which is fine because not all music has to have sustenance. It's just like an hour and 25 minutes over 25 songs. You expect to at least get a few grams of protein in here, you know what I mean? Speaking of that last take I had, the next song is literally called Toilet Water. It features Ski Mask the Slump God, and I'm pretty sure that toilet water is a way to describe this whole entire album. It talks about flexing, smoking, having sex, the usual. Some of my favorite lyrics from this song went like this: flush, 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 flush. It's just, I don't know what the fuck going on in this. This next song features G Herbo. You get the idea. It's all sounding the same, you know. It's falling more into hip hop at this point, you know, as far as the track goes. But again, it talks about money, trapping, cars. There's more cars. There's more cars. There's more cars. The next song, Chief Keef coming along with this one. You know what I mean? And in this one, they're talking about the same shit. Like I at this point I don't have anything to say about it, you know. He says in this, what you're smoking got a dookie smell, and you know, you never want someone to say that about what you're smoking, so it's a good diss, but like they're still talking about the same thing. Here comes Rob 49 on the next song to talk about more of the same. I mean, at this point I'm just bored and my headphones are getting worse and worse from all the bass, so I don't really know what's going on. The next song features DaBaby. DaBaby always has a good flow. He's talking fast. He's going nice with it. He said in the song, told him, make a wish like I'm Cosmo and Wanda's son. But other than that, it's basically the same type of shit. Talking about the same thing over and over again. But you may be wondering, they got to change it up at some point. And yes, they do. And the next track is called Swag Like Ohio. It talks about all the same hype hop stuff. Everything I've been talking about before, except this time they're in Ohio doing it. Let's hear what Lil B, who features on this song, might have to say about that. Wow, very interesting. The next song features Kodak Black. It's called Colors. It's way chiller in the start. This is kind of more of a classic hip-hop beat, you know what I mean? It talks about all the same shit as always, just comparing a lot of these things to Colors too, you know. It's got room for verses, but I feel like maybe he didn't use them that well. I don't know. My overall take on this album is that it dragged. It's literally 25 songs over an hour and 15 minutes, and I don't know a single person in my life who would bump this whole entire album. That being said, I think that this is a genre that music is really about to dive deep into, this heavy bass with like really loud electronic melodies in the background. I feel like it's kind of got like a dystopian sound, which can be a reflection of a lot of the places and lives that these people are coming up in, you know what I mean? There's a lot of like violence and problems and conflict in these songs, which as its music and art is a reflection of the places and poverty that these people are growing up in, the violence they're subjected to, you know what I mean? And so I just think that music in general is going this way, to this kind of darker sound, but someone's going to do it way better than Trippie Redd is all I have to say. And with that being said, I'm just going to give this album a C rating. I didn't like it, but you wouldn't have to convince me hard to tell me that there's some diehard fans for this. So also, you can't put it on the same line as the Young Lambo track because that's just offensive. That's it for the new albums of this week. We are now going to move on to the friend recommended album. Thank you, Ryan McTarnigan, for this album. It is Roman Candle by Elliot Smith. 9 songs long, carried out over 30 minutes. The first track goes a little bit like this. Now you're going to think, oh, that sounded good. It's got that nice acoustic guitar. But it's also talking about something hurting him and how he would always put up with it. And, you know, I don't know if this is someone who is mean to him or what, but he wants them to feel the pain too. The darker lyrics in this make a great contrast against the happy sounding, fast strummed guitar track in the background. The next track is called Condor Ave. I mean, it almost sounds happy, you know what I mean? But it's talking about someone leaving him after what sounds like an argument. He says, "I don't know what to do with your clothes or your letters. It'll make a whisper out of you." He's conflicted about how he feels about this person, and it almost seems like he talks about someone dying in a car crash and falling asleep behind the wheel. In the song, he says they never get uptight when a moth gets crushed unless a light bulb really loved him very much. And those are some pretty woke bars, you know what I mean? Take that in, or let that sink in, you know what I mean? That's just a good bar right there. So, you know, the quick rhythm guitar kind of continues in this. It's carries on with some pretty vague but poetic lyrics. You know, they all kind of change exactly what they're talking about, and each verse kind of tries to paint a similar emotion or mood or scene in your brain. It's a pretty nice experience. The next song keeps the same acoustic sound going. And these lyrics get pretty abstract at points, so it's hard to understand exactly what they're meaning, and that's kind of the point, I think. But he says in this, "You better start watching what messages you send out. I only go in to get kicked out." So again, kind of contrasting a few things in these songs, giving, you know, being honest about himself and, you know, ways that he thinks people should act or whatever, but being honest that not everyone always does, including him. So the next song, the 5th song on this album, it continues with the basic melody and acoustic guitar in the back, and some good poetry in this one. It says, "Watched the dying day blushing in the sky. Everyone is so uptight, so come on night." It's just great. The next song continues with the guitar. You know, I think it's talking in this song about how this guy's driving all over town to find someone. He's trying to find this girl, but the end of the song kind of hints that he's never going to find her. You know, he kind of messed up, and so he'll keep driving. 7th track keeps the same type of sound going in the background, and it feels like this guy in the song, he's either heard about or witnessed a lot of abuse. You know, it makes me wonder if the pain and grim images that this album like kind of paints for you are about his parents or someone's parents he knew or something, because he kind of is in this relationship a lot, but talking about it from a perspective that makes me feel like it's not his own. I'm not too sure. I can't assume, but that's just my take on it. This album puts a little more emphasis on the lyrics and the melody coming from the guitar than previous tracks. You know, the louder guitar that comes through in the middle starts to make the song border on rock. He's talking about how he's sick of a person, but that, you know, it feels like he's hinting at they keep avoiding their problems, and he's saying it'll all be yesteryear soon, hinting at the passage of time and how your troubles change with time and things like that. And he's having trouble sleeping, as you can imagine someone who might have troubles like intense relationships like that might have. The last song is called Kiwi Mad Dog. This last song starts off with more of like a beach guitar sound. And there's no lyrics on this track. Kind of gives you a moment to think about what you heard in the rest of the album. And those thoughts are kind of nurtured by a guitar that's kind of mirroring the sounds you heard in the previous 27 minutes of this track. And it's a little bit of melancholy in this track as well. So it's a nice guitar journey throughout. In terms of what I think about this album, I like that the words and sentences all kind of connect to make you feel something ambiguous. I feel like it's meant to be interpreted by the listener, and it's meant to be some type of experience for you. And by doing that, it keeps you intrigued and listening. I think there's a real skill and value in that type of writing, in that type of music, that makes it more than just an experience of your ears. You know, it's kind of like if bedtime lullabies had this like cool aunt with like some dark stories to tell you, you know what I mean? And like, it's super ambivalent on the surface, but as soon as you take a deeper dive into it, there's definitely a darker side to the emotions behind all these lyrics, to the experience that drove the creation of this album. That's why I gave it an A rating, because you can also just play it and kind of listen to it like whenever, like just on a drive, or like it's a good work album, you know, because it sounds happy, and you know, the only way you're really going to figure out that's pretty dark is by really listening to it. So that's our 4 albums for today. I appreciate you watching. They were some long albums, a lot to talk about, but there's always some new music next week we can talk about. Again, if you have some recommendations, I need some albums to review. Drop them in the comments, hit me up on text, whatever. Just make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Peace.